Welcome, welcome to the April edition of the SEO Juice. We are so excited to have you all here today. To kick things off, we are going to roll right into our truths and a myth. So today we have for you the first one: businesses ranking in the local pack have a high likelihood that they will also appear in Gemini's AI-powered results for the same query. The next one, a Google business profile is more likely to have verification issues if it is not owned by the specific brand managing it. Third one, Google plans on retiring Google Posts by the end of the year. And the last one, signals from active social URLs added to your Google business profile can have a positive effect on both your search visibility and engagement. Where's the myth? Let us know what you think.
These are I tried to pick some timely ones. There's been a lot of news around a bunch of these lately, and some of these are very timely with if those who attended our recent SEO juices will actually know a lot of the answers to these, hopefully. I always try and go back and ask something we've talked about before, or something that's just very top of news.
Timely, relevant on LinkedIn. Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe while people are finishing their answers, I know the questions are on their screen too.
Yeah, let's introduce ourselves. So for those of you who have been with us the whole time, you know who we are. But for the newbies, my name is Casey McBride. I am SOCi's Director of Customer Experience. I'm super excited to have the opportunity to do these webinars with you guys every month. I've been working in the SEO industry for almost 11 years, which is crazy to say. And I'm joined by my counterpart, Mike Snow.
Hi, and yes, I'm Mike Snow, the SEO enablement manager here at SOCi, and as I like to say, SEO evangelist. SEO never ends. It's why we have these meetings every month. There's always something new to talk about. And I've been here at SOCi for what, 5 years now? More than 5 years. Actually, I think it might be coming on 6. Wow. And even longer than that, just been working with marketing teams, first in the entertainment industry and then running my own sites back when I had no idea what title tags are. And hey, why isn't my site showing up in search just automatically? And went down that road of trying to figure out the why, and here we are.
Landed us here.
Yes. So should we get to?
Yeah, let's see what everybody thought the myth was. Okay.
People have been paying attention, I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Spoiling it ahead of time, but I guess we'll go in. Let's see. What we've got here is businesses ranking in the local pack have a high likelihood of also appearing in Gemini's AI overviews, 7%. More likely to have verification issues is 21%, so about a quarter of people. Google plans on retiring posts, 57%, and signals from active social URLs, 14%. So going right in. We forgot to do this while we were waiting.
Oh, hello. Let's
I
intro.
moved it up. I did move it up this week. I figured it's a good thing to talk about while we're waiting.
Yeah, no, totally fine. So today we're going to take you through the usual, what's going on in the industry, what's new with the SEO world. Then I'm going to walk you guys through some benchmarking. What happened this past year? What happened in 2024? What can we learn from it? What are we observing across the industry from a performance standpoint? And then Mike's going to lead us into 5 tips for beginning your AI search optimization strategy. This is a super timely topic. This is something that we are likely to cover in a lot of future sessions, actually. So this is just the beginning. Then we're going to go through our typical checkbox optimization. It's a little bit of a tongue twister. Looking at Google categories, attributes, and features that may be new and available to you. And then honestly, my new kind of favorite session of Mike's is the Caught in the Wild. It's always interesting to see what we find just from digging around and from helping our customers and from investigating what the experience is like in search results. So now we'll jump into our truths and a myth.
And that was my mistake. I moved that up this week, so and we didn't prepare on that one. So to get into these and to answer our 3 local truths and a myth. So again, businesses ranking in the local pack have a high likelihood that they'll appear in Gemini powered search results. This one is true. There was a recent study, which I found very interesting, that found a strong correlation between Google's local pack rankings and AI visibility. And it looked at both local pack and organic. And before, I'm sure a lot of people probably say, but organic isn't matching. There have been a lot of articles about that. Yes, absolutely true. But what I like about this is it does show in local search, which is what we talk about here in the SEO Juice. There is a lot more correlation there, and it makes sense. Using local pages, using review sites that are out there, all those kinds of things are the same things that Google looks at for the most part. It makes sense that someone doing good SEO in one place, it would translate. So good news there. And that's something anecdotally that I've been assuming for a while from what I've seen. So to get an actual study with data to kind of validate that is always nice. And if you access this afterwards, there's a link to the study. You can check it out some more. So the next one, a Google business profile is more likely to have verification issues if it is not owned by the brand managing it. This is one that we learned, this is true, and it's something that I learned on Friday. We have this monthly coffee chat with top marketing executives around the industry. If you're interested in it and you're not taking part, ask your CSM about it. But we had Ben Fisher from Steady Demand. He's a diamond Google expert. If you know anything about SEO, you've seen his name before. And he dropped in to give some advice, and a lot of the questions were around re-verification. I'm sure all of you have had those issues lately, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But one of the things he noted, which I never realized, is that Google may see listings that are owned by someone other than the brand as potentially fraudulent and place stricter requirements on the verification. So what does that mean? I know we have a lot of enterprise brands. And when you bring on an enterprise or a new franchisee, sorry, I said enterprise, I meant franchisee. A lot of franchisee brands, you bring on a new franchisee, a lot of times you don't own that, right? The franchisee owns that listing and they'll give you management access. Well, the problem is that Google sees the owner as not you, the brand, and that's the name on the listing, and as the owner is someone else. And they might be worried that that's like a lead farm or someone creating a fraudulent listing to take leads away from you. So one of the things that he recommended is make GBP ownership transfer a requirement in your franchisee agreements. I thought this was just great information that I realized.
Mike, when we chatted about this, it was like eye-opening for me. It's one of those things that almost seems obvious, but then when you really think about it in practice, and especially for our customers that do have that franchisee model, which is a lot of brands, it's tough. We witness all the time our brands trying to manage and have some kind of ownership or ability to control certain things. And, this is now just more aid in kind of validating to those franchise owners that it is really important to allow brands to have that kind of ownership status, because then it creates less problems for them on their end and reduces the risk for them to become unverified if they want to make an update, let alone trying to become verified in the first place. So this was a really big one.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's just the explanation, right? Like, hey, this is for you as much as it is for us. This is to make sure that down the road, as we're managing and making updates for you, you're not constantly having to go into re-verification issues.
And I do just want to remind the crew here, if there are any questions, feel free to utilize the webinar chat or the Q&A feature. We are monitoring it and we are happy to discuss it, live in the webinar.
All right. So moving to the next one, Google plans on retiring posts by the end of the year. Those who have been paying attention and joining our SEO Juice sessions know that this is a myth. One of the ways I've been saying this for a while, this is an update we gave a few months back where we saw that Google has already started adding posts into Google Maps knowledge panels right at the top within the photos. But again, on Friday in that coffee chat, Ben noted that he has talked to the product managers at Google. That's one of the perks of being a diamond product expert. And they said they have no plans on deprecating Google Posts. In fact, they plan on expanding them, which makes a lot of sense. He also noted that Google's goal is to get you to stay on Google, obviously, and give you all the information possible. It's why we're seeing a lot more social show up on them, a lot more videos about this place. Posts is just part of that. And of course, they'd want to have some control of their own over posts. So why would you get rid of that?
Exactly. And I think something else that you touched on, Mike, that's really important to highlight, and we might have even talked about this last time, but um, social and search, like Google sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but there is a 3-year-old in my living room that is hollering right now. So
Good.
apologies if it is like in my ear. My kids are very cute, but very loud. Anyways, so what I was saying is Google knows that customers now, that people now are interacting so much more on social media. They're using social media as a search engine, especially some of these younger demographics of people. And so this to me is almost like an answer to that. Like, not only is Google integrating more with social, but Google's going to want to expand its features to make its features more visual to kind of mirror that similar experience. So I agree, far from dead. And I think something to really keep an eye on as it pertains to level of importance in your optimization strategy.
Absolutely. It's great clarification on that. Love it. And speaking of social, yeah, social signals from active social URLs added to your Google business profile can have a positive effect on both your search visibility and engagement. For those who were here last month, know that this seems to be true. We're doing a test with Google, really positive results. And that webinar that I mentioned that we're going to have coming up is next week, next Wednesday, actually. And we're going to have someone from Google on, Ashley Doe, who is a product person or a product person, but can't remember what her title is. I should know this on here.
She's the partnerships lead, I
She's a
think.
partnership person, but
Yep.
yes. So her and actually someone from Painting with a Twist as well. We're going to talk about the data. We're going to talk about Painting with a Twist is going to talk about what they did on their end and the result, the positive results they've seen from their trainers. And also Ashley is going to talk about how Google sees social, what they're doing, what might be coming up. So I'm very excited about it. I always love when we do something like this. And everyone's always asking, what can we do to move the needle? What can we do to move the needle? And this is the study and the data that came out of this is really positive and shows that social really is the next thing. And especially if you're very socially active on those channels.
Yeah, this is definitely a big needle mover. Highly recommend, if you guys are on this webinar, it means you care a lot about what those needles to move are. This is definitely one of them that you definitely want to hear more about. So join us.
So again, if you want to get a shot of this or go to there and sign up, do that. Afterwards, you can get this too and sign up. And it's also on, obviously, SOCi.ai in our events section. So hope you're able to join. So moving into industry news.
Industry news.
Let's get
Yeah.
to it.
So I'll take this first one. There has been a lot of communication. In fact, if anybody follows SOCi on LinkedIn, I posted a short video kind of summarizing this in our local memo, which if you guys are not following our local memo blog posts or you're not following SOCi on LinkedIn, you're missing out because we give a lot of industry updates every single week. But this is one that I covered 2-ish weeks ago, where Google did come out and acknowledge that there is a bug associated with re-verifications. This has been observed for a while on and off. There was an influx, I would say, at the beginning of March that was noticed where they confirmed that bug was restored. Now, in other conversations that we had with the Google team, they confirmed to us that there are still some occurrences of a bug to be wary of, despite confirming that they fixed the larger bug. I know that can be confusing. In fact, it was really hard for me to try to summarize in a quick LinkedIn video. I'd had like 50 takes. So please ask questions if you have any. But what this means for you is it's still important to be cognizant and hesitant when pushing out additional category updates specifically is where we've kind of noticed the most flux. Now, we did recently speak with Google, and Mike, please feel free to chime in because I know you were on this meeting and I was not, unfortunately, but where Google did confirm for us that despite maybe going into an unverified status, it should automatically resolve itself after, what was the time period? Like a few days?
A quote, few hours.
Few hours, okay.
Yes.
So maybe that initial re-verification may happen if you update an additional category. Hopefully it resolves within a few hours. If it does not, we have a method here where we're able to create tickets to log with Google and kind of follow up. And, we've been able to get verification restored for a lot of customers. I can't promise it happens 100% of the time, so it is always kind of a risk to take. But it does sound like Google is at least treading positively in that they recognize that it is still a lingering issue. They are anticipating that it should resolve itself quickly. If it does not, definitely work with your account teams. Just kind of something to keep in mind. There's just a lot of weirdness happening when it comes to verification status with business listings, and important to maybe be on the safe side, or at least be cognizant of what you're pushing out. Make sure it's relevant to your business. Another tip I would say too is make sure that your locations are well optimized maybe before you push some of those things out. For example, you want your businesses to look valid. And what I mean by that is make sure your name, address, phone is accurate, up to date. Make sure you guys have photos on your listings. Make sure they are, for the most part, complete, so that when you are trying to push out updates, there's nothing else for Google to really question from you. Mike, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, that's all excellent points. One of the other things that we did get notice of is that the issues that were happening were not, did not, it didn't matter if you're doing it natively or via API. It didn't matter if you're doing one at a time or 100 at a time, and it didn't matter if you're doing one every month or 10 a day. It really is about the what you're changing. Google validated additional categories again. They shouldn't cause, but they could, and could come back in. They did note, and this makes absolute sense. If you're changing your main category, it makes sense that you could have a re-verification. If it's within the same industry, like grocery store to discount grocery store, they're probably not going to give you any trouble. And then lastly, things like, I think there were rumors going around that changing service areas could cause an issue. It's really not that. It's if you change from a brick and mortar to a service area, of course, Google's going to want to verify that. So
All very good clarifications.
they're trying to get back to where it was. I know that that's their goal, and I think they're making big strides toward that. So I know a lot of people like to bag on Google, and there are a lot of reasons to, but I know they're trying to fix this issue. And their reason for it happening to begin with was really about trying to get rid of spam, is my guess, right? They just turned up those controls too big, and there are edge cases that are going to cause people to go into re-verification. So
Well said.
a fix for legitimate businesses that unfortunately cause some issues. So this one, actually about a month ago, actually in February, I guess, looking at what I wrote here, Search Labs, Google's experimental arm, I guess, they launched a test where they were doing something called Ask for Me, which uses AI to call a business on a customer's behalf. It's a feature you can't see unless you go to Search Labs, Google Search Labs, sign up. But in the beginning, they just had, what was it? Nail salons and auto services. Sorry, there's so many brand or lines of businesses now. They had those initially, but they recently expanded it just randomly. I just logged in one day, and now they have car detailing, pet grooming, and phone repair, with the promise of more coming soon. For those who haven't seen it, this is one for pet detailing. And you can see, you click into it, you pick your pet, you pick the breed, you pick the weight. I just picked a random one. I don't have a bulldog. I don't know why I landed on that.
You have dogs.
I do have dogs. I just didn't want to take the time to
I know.
searching for my random mutts. You could put down what you want, what you're looking to do, and then when you'd want it and how you want to be notified. If you're in any of these industries, highly recommend checking it out, signing up just so you can see what it does. But at the same time, making sure that your managers, owners, franchisees, whoever is managing your individual locations and manning the phones, know that these calls are coming. Because if you don't know, you might see them as spammy. I have not heard a recording or gotten any anecdotal, anyone telling me how these calls sound. I don't know if Google is identifying themselves or pretending to be an assistant. And if any of you have gotten these, we would love to hear about it, because
That's what I was going to say. If you are a SOCi customer and you're on this webinar and you are in one of these industries, which I mean, of those of you who are here, I don't know what percentage that even may be. However, if that does apply to you, please, please, please share it with us. Share it with your CSM, share it with us directly. It doesn't matter. We're so curious to understand what the output of this is.
Yeah. I like scoured the web. I looked at all like the main sites and the search engine journals, like everywhere to try and find if someone had a recording of this or some reporting on it, and nobody does. So, but this expansion, I will say, like it makes it seem like if you're expanding, it means it's doing well. It also might maybe they didn't get a lot of engagement from
Mm,
auto services and nail salons. So we really still don't know how well this is doing. But the promise of more coming soon seems to make it seem like it's leaning toward positive. So, and for those, I know we got a question once before about can't people spam this? Yes, but also at the same time, this is happening right now on Yelp. It's happening on Mandy. It's happening in any place that somebody wants to find out about a service. So, I don't see that as being a reason Google would not use it.
right.
All right, moving on.
Another important update. So Google Business Profile is removing reviews and ratings from general education school listings. So primarily what they're targeting are, primary, secondary education, elementary, middle, high schools. It's like the public schooling system. It does not include like preschools or higher education where obviously reviews are probably very warranted and needed, right? Now, something to think about is if you're using a primary business category that does define you as a general education school, but another category could apply, you'll want to change it before April 30th. That way you can retain your reviews, keep that rating. I'm not surprised by this, Mike. I don't know what your take is on it. I think it makes sense to remove that feature from, schools. I think they did this once before over COVID. Am I
They
wrong?
did. People were being kind of awful about like, I can't believe the school's open. I can't believe the school's closed. I can't believe like, everybody was having issue. And so that's not really about the teaching. It's not about the education, and Google shut it off. But they didn't remove the reviews at that time.
Mm.
So this is going that one step farther of not only shutting it off, but removing the reviews. I will say I got a question today. Other sorts of private schools are also, I think, looped into this. This email I got when I originally got it was for a Montessori school.
Really? So it does apply to private.
It
Interesting.
does seem to be. I think it's just about general education in general.
General education in general.
Tourists say. But it's about general education. So what is that K through 12
Got
education
it.
going to be? And I would say I was thinking about this yesterday. Someone asked me, well, what should we do if you're a Montessori school and that's what you are? Well, don't necessarily change it because people do look for Montessori schools. I have an aunt who's a board member. But the playing field has been evened a bit. If you think about it, no one has reviews anymore. No one is getting reviews anymore. So once you take that out of the mix, what pushes relevance? It's, your local pages, reviews on other sites, there are education sites that people might be putting reviews on. Social, do you have parents following your school and interacting with things going on? Like work those other signals if
Yeah.
reviews don't exist.
If anything, I think that a lot of places can maybe use that to their advantage. I think a lot of
Yeah.
the motivation for some of this is, you know, disgruntled parents, maybe not leaving fully truthful experiences that might skew the reality, which I mean, I guess that can affect any business, but for something as sensitive as a children's education, I'm not really surprised. And to Mike's point, it's not that there's a shortage of other avenues to try and help influence your search results. So, um, yeah.
All right. And I think this is the last one of the updates. I kind of highlighted this a little bit, I think, last week, but social media updates are now appearing in Finder search results on mobile. They've appeared in direct results for a long time, but the fact that they're appearing now in this way, I think, is fascinating. It's appearing in a place that makes it feel experiential.
Mhm.
And in fact, we did a little early prepping for next week's webinar with Google, and there are even more ways this stuff will eventually appear. They also validated that the only reason social media posts appear in the offer and events last week, I mentioned that I noticed it was only when they were linked. Google validated that. So there's a lot going on here with social. Highly recommend, again, if you're not adding your channels, if they're not active, because just adding them doesn't do much. Google seems to be highlighting posts within the last month or so. I haven't seen anything more than like 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So add your links. And obviously there's a big webinar next week with the why, but this is just, I think, just a really great bit
And
of what I like to call, what is it? The customer choice optimization, right? That's kind of
um,
what
we just had somebody in the chat request to repost the link to next week's Google's Google event. Oh my gosh. To our marketing friends on the webinar, can somebody add that link in there when you get a chance? That
thanks.
would be great. Cool.
All right, so we're almost at the half-hour mark, so let's get into the meat of things. Casey, I'm very excited about this data. I haven't heard you talk about it yet. I know you recently put this together, so I'm going to shut up now.
Oh yeah, good, about time. No. So I am excited to share this. What I do want to preface with is this is just the beginning. Our team of data analysts are working to really slice this up to get even more detailed based on industry. So right now it is general, broad. I was able to break it out into some industries, but hopefully I would say in the next couple months, I'll be able to share some insights, maybe even about the first quarter of this year and what's happening in various industries, what's happening performance-wise in these industries. Just feeling really good about the type of data that we have that I'm really excited to share. So without further ado, you want to jump to the next slide. So our team of data analysts took a look at what happened in search last year. Where did everybody stand in 2024? I think you heard us tell a lot of stories around search impressions declining and what that means and why it was happening. And we were able to aggregate a ton of data around what the actual results were. Now, this is an evaluation of over 1,000 different types of brands across the web. And so what we found is that in 2024, map impressions on average were up 22%. Search impressions on average were down 10%, and leads, that's your calls, clicks, and directions, were up 4%. Now, this kind of bigger trend I think we've been talking about for a while, where search impressions in general have been on a decline. Map impressions in general have been on an incline. There are a lot of reasons for this. I think some of the key ones that we've been talking about is the reality that the search interface is changing quite a bit. We're noticing less local packs, more AI, changes in local pack position, making it kind of harder for Google business profiles to be visible in traditional search results, as well as some additional features that have enticed people to move to the Maps interface. So think of, I think a couple webinars ago, we talked about how there's a search on maps button now above, map results and traditional search results that just pushes folks to go to the Maps experience. So we think that that kind of swap in relationship is why we are seeing the increases in map impressions and the declines in search impressions. If you jump to the next slide, we break it down a little bit by various industries. So this is what I mean by at a high level, I was able to collect this, but I very soon am going to get to a point where we're analyzing retail, restaurant, service area business, very specific things to help everybody understand what they're benchmarking against and what's going on in their industry right now. We get asked all the time, like, am I on the same page as other, property companies? And guess what? Now we have that. So super excited to share. So property management, we saw a huge increase of 25% in 2024 compared to 2023. However, we also saw a pretty significant decline in search impressions. So following that same trend, 8% increase in leads. Now, when we look at financial services, it does appear that financial services had some struggle in 2024 compared to 2023. We're actually seeing map impressions down 8%, search impressions down 17%, and those leads down 4%. Now, this is obviously a lesser performance than the entire sample set, indicating for me that maybe there's some level of demand that's down, maybe some customer experience changes. Definitely something that my team is planning to expand even further into, so that we can kind of understand the why behind it, and then keep a close eye on it to understand what's happening in 2025. And then Brand it has joined a lot of different business types together. This is pretty much, anything that isn't a financial institution or a property management group at this time. We are planning on breaking it out more. But we are seeing map impressions up 22, search impressions down 14, and leads about flat. So you're up 0.4. And so general observations out of all of this data is, again, that map versus search impressions relationship that I spoke to. We are seeing leads about flat or negative. I'm not surprised. What I want to say regarding leads is that when we think about the volume of visibility, typically search impressions are much larger than that of map impressions. At least they have been historically. I do think the tides are changing a bit, where we are again seeing map impressions increase pretty significantly. But when we're talking percent to total impressions, typically map impressions are a bit more. Main reason for that is customer behavior. If you think of where you go to conduct a search, more people are going straight to google.com than they are going straight to maps.google.com or the Maps app on their phone. That is shifting. Again, that consumer behavior is changing, but that doesn't negate the fact that typically there is more of that impression traffic in search results, thus resulting in less behavior in actions. So the calls, clicks, and directions. We just got a question that says, what is search impression here? Does it refer to search on Google or Bing? I am talking specifically about Google business profiles in traditional Google search results or Google Map results. So the impression is essentially how many times the user has seen your business on either of those interfaces. A couple other trends to note here, and we will continue to dig into this data. We will continue to, unveil it as we uncover it. But we are seeing brand search in general decline. This is something that I believe Mike and I have talked about on this webinar series quite a few times, where we are in general observing that those top keyword terms that are driving traffic to most customers' businesses when they are brand related typically have less impressions than they did to the prior year. When we dig a little bit deeper and usually analyze it in Google Trends as well, we are seeing that brand related terms typically are down to where they were the prior year, which is definitely impacting this. There's a larger overall trend in the consumer space where customers just aren't as brand loyal. We talk about that a lot on SOCi's Consumer Behavior Index study, which we do have a new Consumer Behavior Index study that I believe will be rolling out here soon that we'll get to share with everyone. But what that did was essentially analyze how customers shop and search and what actions they take. And especially with younger generations, they're just not as brand loyal. And then the last one is just around position insert volatility. If anybody is following keyword ranking tools, I'm sure you see it on your end. We see it on our end, where positions are all over the place. And that has a lot to do with the changing search landscape. So how I was saying, more AI results, less local pack results. We're seeing Google really kind of play around with the positioning and what that experience is, which in turn makes it really crazy to try and track where you rank. Some days you're position 1, some days you're position 5, and it's kind of all over the place. So I think that volatility aids in a lot of these results as well. That was a mouthful.
But this is great. I know a lot of people have been for a long time and looking for those, wondering about those benchmarks, and I'm really excited about what we've seen so far. So this is great. Love it.
All right, and then we have a quick poll regarding Google metrics.
Oh, it shouldn't be metrics.
Yeah.
It's about AI.
Google AI, never mind, sorry. So in this poll, please let us know, is AI search optimization part of your strategy this year? The options are yes, I've already started optimizing. I'm currently building my AI strategy. It's on my to-do list and I want to, but I'm not sure where to begin. You'll notice we did not include a nah, I don't care option because we imagine that all of you are thinking about how to optimize for AI, at least you should be. So definitely let us know where you stand.
We'll make this one very quick. Perfect.
All right, this is what I expected. A lot of I want to, but I'm not sure where to begin at 67%. We've got to-do list at 19. I'm currently building my AI strategy at 5. And yes, I've already started optimizing at 10. Um, Mike, why don't you lead us into our next section? We're going to talk a little bit about where to begin.
Yeah. So thank you. There's so much we could talk about with AI. And in fact, when I wanted to start talking about it, I realized I could, create a 3-hour presentation. It doesn't work. And so I wanted to start at the beginning. One of the things, and another reason why, Casey, sadly, won't be joining us next month in the SEO Juice. She will be enjoying herself away from at Disney, I think.
Going to Disney World with the toddlers. So wish me luck. I got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and I'm going to Disney World. Yes, I am crazy for anybody curious, but I'm really looking forward to it. So I will not be here next month.
But in her stead, I am likely going to have Damian Rollison, who is our director of market insights, who has been doing a lot of research on AI and putting together a lot of articles on this, and he has a lot to impart. But I wanted to set the stage for this by talking about kind of ways you can start thinking about this, tips for starting your strategy, at least figuring out a starting point, because I think that's the scariest part, right? Where do you start? What do you do? How does it work? And so the first tip, it's more of a funny, but it's true. Don't panic. One of the things I found in all the work I've done is good local SEO practices still apply, especially as it relates to local pages. Um, and we'll get into that and we'll show you what we mean by that. But if you are invested in your SEO strategy, when it comes to local, again, I'm going to talk local here. I know organic is a whole other animal right now. But when it comes to local, if you are invested in that strategy and you are performing well, chances are you will continue to perform well. We saw with that article that showed that, a quarter of the businesses landing in the local pack are still landing in the AI overviews. It seems small, but that's also for very niche, very focused kind of searches. And so we'll talk about this a little. The other one is Google is still the dominant force in local search. It still is 87% of the market share in the US. Yes, you don't want to ignore AI because I believe it's where the more interesting searches happen. People are probably searching a little more longer tail keywords, right? Because Google tends to get a little worse at that as you go. If I'm just looking for, car wash near me, that's easy. If I'm looking for eco-friendly car wash, that might be a little harder, right? Like, where are they getting those signals from?
And one thing I want to say too is, not that I want anybody to start panicking, but something that is likely to start happening is we're going to see more and more folks adopting some of these AI platforms. I think, yes, the percent to total right now is not anything alarming, but it is really important to start now because by the time there are more consumers adopting AI, which is likely to happen pretty rapidly, you want to be prepared and you want to make sure that you understand maybe how these things work.
Yeah. Are there good? There was a question about this. Are tools available to measure AI search traffic? It's hard. They're being built. I know in Google, I think Google is starting in, I want to say Search Console, giving some AI overviews
I
feedback.
so I believe that in GA4, I may be able to see this is something you can tell we're all still looking into as well, as far as like how the traffic is getting to your site. I believe GA4 will allow some like split traffic to understand where it's coming from like a GPT perspective. I've seen reports out there. I don't know about Search Console because Search Console is primarily like the organic
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
tied to work, you know what I mean? But yeah, tools like probably GA4, Adobe, Omniture, things like that to be able to track like traffic sourcing may help. But yeah,
Ben shared a really cool report that I shared with you on Friday that does look into that. And so yeah, they're being built. And he said he was surprised. It wasn't a tool that he built. Like, it came across his desk and he's like, "Oh wow, someone built this." So it
yeah,
is still
and I
early.
believe that the report he shared with us was a GA4
Mhm.
powered type of report. So I think Google Analytics will allow for traffic sourcing in that way.
So the short answer is yeah. Question. They're being built, and I think as we continue to talk about this, we'll let tools like that we're working on, but also other tools in the industry that we find that are quick and easy, like plugins or other kinds of things. We will absolutely let you know because it helps us understand how to talk to you all and give you suggestions and recommendations. So. Great question, though. I will say, so back here, I mentioned Google is still the dominant force in local search. One thing I didn't realize, and I was looking this up when I was doing research, you would think that ChatGPT is doing its own thing. We've heard that it gets some data from Yelp, it gets some data from, I think, Foursquare, but all their ratings came from Google. Every single one of these came from Google. I was very surprised to see that. I thought maybe they had schema on their page or it was pulling from Yelp or somewhere else. Nope, Google. So Google is still very important. And although they try and reference other things, they know where the good data is. Google's been doing this for a long time and we may have problems with them, but they still are one of the best at doing this.
Well, and I think Damien will probably talk about this with everyone next month too. I know that he was asking GPT specifically what certain breakouts were, what it's evaluating. He got GPT basically wrote its own article for him, which it's like a 5 or 6 page type of article.
I need to read through it again. It was long.
Yeah, but it seems like it is a conglomerate of a lot of things. I mean, Bing is pretty important, I would say, to ChatGPT as well. It does have access to a lot of that information. So, but the fact that it's pulling the Google reviews too, like it's looking at everything. So
Yes. So the next piece is sorry, going one more. What happens when those Google reviews aren't there? Google is still looking at local pages very prominently. Local pages are a big part of this. Damien has something I'll probably share next month, a graph of what everything is referencing. He validated this too. This has been more anecdotal for me. He's the data guy and kind of really backed this up. But you can see here just a simple search I was looking for pet grooming services near me. What we saw is all these local page sources come up, Petco and Dirty Paws and Posh Pooch, and all over here, the sources are local pages. Casey, can you notice what ranking factor from Google does not seem to be applying here?
oh man, I didn't expect a quiz.
I know, sorry.
What ranking from what ranking factor from Google is not applying here? The title tags.
Well, read the names. I don't see grooming here at all. Like if I did a grooming search
Yeah.
on Google, I would see groomer, like,
That's what I mean. Well, so if you look at the local pages,
oh yeah, they're in the title tags.
they're in the title tags. That's what I mean. So it's it's probably maybe analyzing it in the title tag to some degree, but then it's extracting the brand name rather than pulling the title tag.
yeah. This
Interesting.
is really interesting. Like in a Google search, you get all the groomers coming up because Google isn't sure if you're looking for a grooming service or you're looking for, Casey's grooming service, and I can't remember the name, right?
Yeah.
ChatGPT is smart enough to know I'm looking for a service. I'm not looking for a grooming place that I can't remember the name of. So it's
That's
giving me groomers instead of hedging its bets like Google would.
that's a really, really good point. Also, I'm really happy that I got that right. That would have been really embarrassing.
Yeah. But yeah, and I had noticed, but yeah, it's that same thing as title tags. So let's talk a little bit about this. So one of the things we want to do is make sure that your local page tells the story of your business. Because, go back, look at this example right here. I did eco-friendly car washes. I think I brought this up as an example before. Google is getting all of this from local pages. Where else, you remove Google from the equation, where would a AI agent know that you had eco-friendly services or that you offered something unless it was somewhere, right? As Google says, without content, it is literally not possible to rank. Same goes for any search engine. You need that content. And if ChatGPT and others are looking at pages because that is the best structured data source if you're doing things right.
Look, I am a web SEO at heart. Not to, extrapolate the difference between like listings, optimizing for listings and optimizing for web pages. My bread butter passion is optimizing for web pages. And so it's been really interesting to witness this kind of rebirth of relevance of the local landing page. One, because it's super relevant to your business listing because Google's crawling your local landing page to help you rank in your business listing. But on top of that, now we know for sure that ChatGPT and other LLMs like it care about what kind of content you have on your local business page. So write that content, personalize that content, update that content, keep it fresh, keep it detailed. So important to helping you guys appear in all types of search results.
You can see right here, this is, they say it features this pure water reclaim system. There it is. It's getting it from that local page. That's that linked local page. It has information on it.
And one thing
Here's
I want to
another,
say too, because I get asked this, oh, I realize we're maybe running short on time too. I'm
yeah.
talking a lot here, so apologies. But one thing I want to say too, because I get asked this question a lot, like, Casey, what do you mean update the content on the page? Like, is there something? No, I literally mean simplistically. If you want to show up for something, if you are a dog groomer and you feature this organic shampoo, even just mentioning we use organic shampoo in a sentence, it goes such a long way. It is that simple, truly. Okay, now I'll shut up and let you get.
That's a great point. And so a couple of the other things, and I'll move a little quicker, is as part of that telling your story, make sure you're benchmarking yourself against the industry. I was doing a public storage search and I noticed at the bottom it was giving a pricing overview. And again, that was coming from pages. That was coming from their home pages. So they were talking about using their Q&A. Here's another one, answer common questions. When I dug in that Q&A, it was a frequently asked question. So standard units may start around this, like to give industry benchmarks. Because again, you're training the AI in a way. Like, I offer this service. This is what people should expect from this service. And we do that, and we also do this, right? Like, set yourself apart, set the benchmark, and then show how you're exceeding that benchmark because you're training that AI. The other tip, and we Casey kind of noticed that with the title tags, is making sure your pages follow best practices for technical optimization. This is an easy thing that you should be doing now. Hopefully you've done this now. Google looks at your local pages. They look at important things like your title tag, your heading tags, your H1s, your H2s, your schema. And here's some best practices of that. The title tag that says what they do. And we saw that with the car washes. The headers that help structure the page. So Google knows, like, oh, here are my pickup options, or not Google, AI knows their pickup options. Here's where I learn more. Here are the offers if we're showing offers. So doing stuff like that. Because if in this instance, how would any search engine know what this local page is? Can you figure out what this is for? This is for
I was going to say I only can because I see the URL
I
untucked.
know, I forgot to obscure that. There's nothing else here that tells the search engine what they do. In fact, they may think they're a restaurant.
Yeah.
So why would Google know that? And what's really interesting here, you see this no items detected. I also discovered the website really is only also showing up, their own website, if there's schema. So in this instance, I did a search for, storage, and Go Mini has their website. U-Haul has their website, but Pods does not. It goes to, I can't read what that is, but it doesn't go to a Pod site. And I noticed that's the only one that didn't have structured data. So this idea of saying that this is a local page, so it's going to have information about this local business. And the fact that that one did not, potentially it got excluded. So I want to look into that a little bit more, but if that's the case, it's super striking.
That's awesome. I mean, it's not awesome for pods, but that's a good find.
That it shows why all of these things are really important. And then lastly, I want to say, be your own customer in a way. How would you search if you were looking for your products or services? Make sure if you're worried about AI search, do AI searches yourself. Understand what it's pulling from. Do you appear in those search results? If you don't, what are those others doing, and what do you need to do to show up that way? If you have an eco-friendly car wash and you're not showing up, are you doing those things those other ones are? And if not, do those things. What sources do the AI results cite? I did a search for insurance near me, and I got a whole bunch of agencies that just reference the Better Business Bureau. Probably because it looks at it as their version of a YMYL, right? Your money or your life. If you're doing things that have to do with money or other things, I'm sure Better Business Bureau validation is probably really important to people. But you can see here, I did a couple searches, carpet cleaners with deals near me. Maybe I want to get a deal. Then I looked to see what Google's referencing, not just local pages, but a lot of Groupons. So I may want to either make sure I'm posting my deals very clearly and easy to read on my page, or publish pre-purchase deals on Groupon. But if you want to appear in these searches, you need to know how they're being presented. This was another interesting one. I did a search for romantic restaurants near me, and then it asked if I wanted help with a reservation. So I said, well, how would that work? And it just gave me a bunch of information. But again, that information came from local pages. When local pages weren't linked, it didn't have schema. It went to some open table. And then I also wanted to know, like, these images, how are those appearing? Well, they're coming from Pinterest, they're coming from website, review sites, and TripAdvisor. Well, gee, maybe I want to make sure my Pinterest is updated with photos if Google is looking at that. So just paying attention to all these things is really important. So, and lastly, because we don't have a lot of time left, engage locally. I noticed that like best of searches tend to only rely on local review sites. I look for best local restaurants. I got no local pages.
Interesting. So that's definitely different from Google, right? Where we talk about if you want to appear for best, make sure your star rating is above a 4.0. Well, if you want to appear for best, it seems like from an AI perspective, diversify your citations. And I don't mean like listing citation. I mean like your local articles. And so that's a little more like kind of PR work
Yeah.
for regionals.
So there's, I think, going to be a lot of that. And I went through a lot very quickly. This is really high level, but I wanted to just make it not feel so like this black box that you have to try and figure out a way into. These are just some ways that I got into it. This is how I familiarized myself. And so if you have questions on this, so we're almost out of time, so we're going to go through some other stuff, but, follow up with CSMs if you have questions and you want to know more. And
And
we'll have more next month. That
I
is
was
our
gonna say a lot more to come on this next month with Mike and Damien. I'm sad to be missing it, but not too sad because I will be in the most magical place on earth.
true. And Damien eats and breathes this stuff, so he's going to have a lot to bring to the table beyond my very elementary introductory level. So thank you for listening on that. So with our last few minutes left, we'll go into checkbox optimizations, which not a lot this month, but I'll talk to it if you want to
I
get
was gonna say, if you just want to close us out, Mike.
So what I've noticed, Google really hasn't released much at all. We haven't got a new category since November 1st. I haven't seen any new real attributes, probably because they've been batting a lot of bugs down is probably a big piece of it. But one thing I did notice is new features. If you are on your phone, you may see now when you're searching in Finder is that Google is really highlighting the attributes now in a lot of industries. You can see here, Amazon Fresh, Trader Joe's, these are grocery stores, things like food, flowers, on-site parking. The food and the flowers, I think, were just in the prepared foods, bakery, were just added as attributes a month or two ago. Those are appearing. Restaurants, they're starting to appear. Places like Dave and Mustard, just more restaurants. Sky Zone, Restaurant Playground, arcade games. And these scroll, I noticed too, if you put your finger down on these and you can actually scroll, it has all of them. I was wondering why they were choosing some over others, but they're appearing there. And one of the things, I don't know if you notice on some of these, there are filters. And if we look at this one, this is gyms near me. Some of the filters are with a pool, with a sauna, with a basketball court, showers, which is new. If I pick sauna, you'll notice what's appearing in front of all of these, it's going by a little fast, sorry, is sauna. So Google is absolutely filtering by those attributes as well. And you can see other things show up like, parking or payment. If you're a convenience store, you probably want to add parking, because it is about convenience. Gyms, I think too. Sometimes you want to get a gym that's convenient and get in and out of, and parking can be terrible. But think about like, what is a decision factor and make sure that you're including those things, because as people get used to seeing those and go, oh, I wonder what they have. If you don't have that, they may go on to the next. So wanted to figure that was a great place to highlight this. And then lastly, just a couple things I caught in the wild. One was this latest in local food feature appearing in the top of most mobile search results for food related searches. It seems to be related to, if you've seen those, what I've been calling best of justifications. If you search for restaurant and you see a little dot and there's like, hey, top restaurant spot or something like that. It seems to be what these are. It's very interesting. I need to look into it a little bit more, but obviously Google is trying to expand. If you're in discovery for a restaurant, they want to give you more information to explore. Do you want to look at articles? Do you want to watch short videos? What is it? This next one, I broke Google again. This was a funny one. I talked about the evolution of nearby offers and events and deals as a 4-pack into nearby offers and events. I did a search for dessert deals near me, and I got the old local pack. The old 4-pack is a 6-pack, and the events and deals. So I just managed to break Google again for no reason. I always find it's fun when we do that. And then lastly, I noticed editorial summaries are not updated as often as Google says they are or should be. I was doing some competitive research last week and noticed a trampoline park that's been open since May of last year still has an opening soon AI editorial summary. So Google is slow. I will say Google has said, and I think I brought this up in the editorial summary one a few SEO juices ago when we looked at specific features within Google. If you feel these are wrong, you can reach out to Google. There is you can, within your business profile, you can say, hey, we don't think this is right. Can you relook at this? They will recheck it, or they say they will. I'm sure in an instance like this, they would absolutely probably update it. They're obviously open. This isn't necessarily updated anymore. So
Yeah, and if you're like me and you're still having a hard time realizing that it's 2025 and not 2024, I would think that this location is opening soon. So definitely something to call out.
right. So we went through a lot in a short amount of time. I always feel like I don't have enough content, and then we run right up into it because we always find something to talk. I'm sure if we had one slide, we could fill an hour.
I know. Always great chatting with you, Mike, and with the crew here. We love that you guys join us every month. As always, please, please, please post questions. You can always ask follow-up questions after the calls as well. We are always here, and we're happy to be here. So thank you guys so much for joining us this month. I will miss you next month, but you are in good hands.
And for those who want the recording afterwards, if you're part of SOCi, it will be in SOCi U. And if you are not, it will be published up on I think you'll get a link for that as well. So just want to let you know in case you want to revisit any of this stuff, it's there. And we hope to see some or all of you next week in the Google webinar.
Yes, please join us in the Google webinar.